Welcome back, everyone, to my channel. My name is Shweta. I am the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals from non-English speaking backgrounds improve their language and communication skills in order to improve their patient experience and stand out in their workplace as a person of excellence. Now, on our channel today, I have someone who actually literally specializes in this area, and I've been meaning to get a hold of him and been looking forward to doing this with him for a very long time. And let me introduce you to Dr. Dhruva. So welcome aboard. And would you like to tell a little bit, share about a little bit about who you are, and in summary, just your professional experience, what you've done up until now and what you're doing at the moment?
Sure. Namaste, Shweta. Yeah, thank you for having me on your channel. And I appreciate what you do for us and, for all the things that you and other people do to elevate our patient experiences. I'm so grateful to be able to have these conversations that give me so much pleasure and joy, from the creating awareness part to the finding solution. So yeah, I love to be a part of that journey. Well, my mission is to empower healthcare providers who are burnt out with mindful and empathic techniques that lead to high-level patient experiences, and in turn avoid burnout, because burnout is due to a lack of purpose. When we lose our purpose, we tend to say, oh, I don't want to do that, I don't feel like it. And that's kind of what I'm here to do, is to help others along the way, where I've developed this process called Mind Hygiene, where we can elevate our life experiences. And this applies to every part of your life, not only patient experience. And my name is Dhruva Gulur. I'm a family physician based out of Seattle, and I'm a board certified family doctor. And I've seen over 115K patients and counting. And I love what I do. I'm a professional speaker. I'm a rapper, and I when I speak, I rap in my keynotes as well. So kind of to get that other element to get across. One of my coaches one time told me I have multiple speaking coaches. I still have a lot of coaches in my life. And one of them said that you're not a speaker, you're a performer. So, I like to tend to be a little bit embellishing and try to embellish those humanizing relationships through that connection. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, a man of many talents indeed. And interestingly, we have so much in common besides the work that we do already. So obviously, we both are fur parents, because I have a dog. You've got quite a few animals yourself. I'm also very, very passionate about music. I come from a musical family, and I've been singing since the age of 5. Now, I'm not as creative as you in the sense that I also speak a lot on podcasts and YouTube channels, and aiming to do a keynote in the future sometime. I have a YouTube channel of all my singing performances, and I have a tattoo on my shoulder of the treble clef. So I can't rap. Rap is really hard for me personally. I've tried it before. But yeah, music is a huge, huge part of my life. So yeah, we connect in so many ways, which is amazing. All right, now, how long have you been practicing medicine for?
I've been in practice in 25 years.
So a lot of experience under your belt. So you did mention a little bit about the mind hygiene, and I did come across that on your ebook, which obviously I'll link in the description box. Can you just talk a little bit more, elaborate on what actually mind hygiene is? Because it sounds pretty broad as a concept, and how it's related to effective patient communication.
Yeah, well, mind hygiene is enhanced mindful communication with empathy through mind hygiene. It sounds complicated when you break it down. All it is be aware, be nice to yourself, and write about it. And that's kind of what it is. Be nice to yourself and write about it. Let's just take a scenario. Can you give me like some scenario as an example of some stressful situation? And let's try to break it down and see if we can mind hygiene that out like quickly.
Say, for example, because of my experience in healthcare, I used to work with a lot of elderly patients, and mine was a phone-based role. And they are sometimes, when it comes to when I had to tell them, please email your referral, or when I had to go through safety questions, they would not understand my accent. They wouldn't understand what I was saying, because they were obviously elderly, and it was because they couldn't hear very well. So that was a frustrating experience for me. So let's take that as an example.
Yeah, so what we would do is maybe not take that in emotional mind, at the time. Yeah, mind hygiene, I mean, it will apply to, and you'll be able to apply it in rational mind, in emotional mind. So when you're emotionally like strung out, you can put these tools in place, and it doesn't take that long either to do it. So we'll take that situation and we'll extract it and understand the concept through mind hygiene. How do we be nice to yourself in that situation is the question. Well, when I'm writing it down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to be as visual as possible. I have a phone. I have an individual on the other side. I have coffee here. I have a cell phone with a bunch of emails. I have 10 tabs open, and I need to text somebody on WhatsApp for some strange reason in India or something. So now I have all of these things going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ace my awareness and not face it. But mind hygiene is where you've sat down and you have all of this now. So you have this data, you have these data points, and you have these emotional data points that are saying, okay, we have all of these things together. Now let's condition our minds. Mind hygiene is where you create the awareness, you condition your mind, and then you train your mind to be nice. So that's kind of the evolution that we're going in. And what's going to happen is that you would want to ace and not face it. What does that mean? Well, aces would mean that you accept your awareness, you communicate with yourself compassionately, and then you embrace yourself empathetically, and you try to soften the process. So that's aces. And when you write it down, it becomes a lot easier. And that would be instead of disempowering yourself with faces, which would be fixing, anger, or overcoming, trying to control the situation, trying to find coping strategies. E is erasing, and S is being strong. In other words, we take the situation that we have and we accept it and not fix the emotions around it, in other words. Yeah, and then you communicate with yourself compassionately, meaning don't say anything bad about yourself, because now you're taking time to understand it. So there's no reason to have self-judgment. You're already taking time. And then you can empathize. Look, you know what? Language-wise, I wasn't born in wherever. These language barriers are there. But, as an example, let me empathize with my mom. Well, my mom came all the way from India to live here for me. I better figure it out. So now I have empathy. And then the S part is to soften the process, which would mean a lot of the times what people will say with certain things is they'll say, oh, it's too hard. Oh, that's difficult. Oh, I can't do that. I won't do that. Those are self-limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now you don't want, when you put yourself in those situations where you try to fix or overcome or control, you develop resentment and then judgment. And then what happens with that judgment is the worst drug on earth ensues, which is the path of least resistance, where people eat bad, people drink, get angry, yell, alcohol, marijuana, nicotine, cocaine. I did all of those things. I had a great time. And that was, and what happened when I started accepting these things and being nice to myself about it, instead of trying to fix the emotions. Oh man, you know what? I didn't do a good job there. Well, I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb. Can you believe that? I can't believe I'll never do well. Now you see all those self-limiting beliefs. Difficult to try to be strong in the face of those self-limiting beliefs. It's difficult to try to control them, because then they just turn into resentments, and those resentments lead to the path of least resistance, which just everything just crumbles from there. Don't worry about it. It'll all just happen. Yeah. And then when you do that enough, you're able to train your mind to just be nice to yourself. So then you can fast forward in 7 days. If somebody's saying that, okay, I'm going to accept this for what it is. I'm not going to be mean to myself. I don't know what anybody else is doing. I can't be concerned about what anybody, I can only be nice to myself. I can only communicate empathetically with myself.
Fair enough.
And then because I've already taken the time to have that feedback loop, I've understood that I'm compassionate to myself because I'm taking time. I'm empathetic towards myself because I understand that I'm serving a bigger purpose. My mom and dad came from India. I'm like, I better get this done. Like it's, now I'm empathizing and I'm putting some pressure on myself without saying that it's hard. And then the more you do it, the better you get at it. Just to compartmentalize that one stressful point, think about somebody, I'm your personal trainer and I'm going to ask you to lose weight. Well, you create awareness or mind hygiene around it. I try not to be mean to that awareness. Do that awareness regularly or condition your body, and then you go train your body. It's the same thing. I mean, how easy is it to lose weight? It's super easy to lose weight. Anybody can lose a pound. But how are you keep that pound off is the question. So that's where the emotional freedom comes in, and so that's kind of it's really fun, especially I've taken so much time to understand it for myself. I never thought it would help anybody. I was doing it for myself. Then people started asking me about it. They're like, "What is this?" So hopefully that made sense. It wasn't too.
Yeah, it's a very empowering tool for sure in the space of how it equips us to be better healthcare providers and communicators for sure. Now, the next question that I had, where are we going with this? Now, what are the main reasons that you believe, or what you've experienced, that there is this significant communication breakdown between healthcare providers and patients, and that's why in many ways the healthcare system is in a little bit of a red zone? I know it's a loaded question, but just from your experience, because you did talk about resentment, does that play a part in it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's extrapolate that situation, and now let's hang the phone up and let's walk out to our colleagues.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're walking out to our colleagues. Here's the problem that I've seen in healthcare, and this is why at one point I resigned to be a prison doctor and to work in a different in different parts of the world to try to become a better patient experience speaker. Well, what happens is that you extrapolate that, and then there are two people that are there, and they're like, "Oh, can you believe that patient? Oh, can you believe that they said that? I can't believe them. They're just rude. Oh, don't worry, girl, be strong. Bro, you got this, man. Don't worry about it. We'll go have a drink together." So this is where the breakdown happens. Because now what's happening is that there's one person who is aligning with the path of least resistance. Oh, they're the problem.
Yes.
They're the problem now. And now what happens is that it just becomes easier and easier. You go out, you eat ice cream, you drink, and then you start talking bad about your boss or whatever. Oh, they need to change that. Somebody needs to do this. So what's happening is that people are just living in resentment, and it's an implicit bias. So it's not like it's somebody's fault I'm better or something. And this mind hygiene business doesn't work all the time. It's like weight loss. That's like the best part. It works about 85%, 95% of the time, especially when you're in high times, like you're in big games, major games, like the NBA finals type games where they have 15, 30 people around who are all complaining.
Yeah.
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 So
Wow.
when everybody's, yeah. So, that's where I think the breakdown in healthcare is communication with judgment versus communication with empathy. So if I'm sitting around at home talking bad to myself, actually, I'm just going to talk bad about others to make myself feel good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it is. But if I understand and communicate empathetically with myself, then I'll be naturally nice to others without even trying. And whatever other people do is not my business. I
Totally.
can't make business, which is
Yeah.
very easy to say, but it just takes that level of practice. Number one, and then two is to not have conversations for more than a few seconds to a few minutes with people that complain. You just
Shut it down quickly.
like a minute or two, and then you're like, all right, buddy, what's the solution now?
Yes.
So we found, so instead of calling it a problem or a complaint, let's just call it creating awareness. We
Yes.
created awareness. Let's ace that awareness with compassion and empathy. And what's the solution? Oh, we can't find the solution. Let's accept it radically. And what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Now, on that note, now sometimes a lot of patients, we are sort of serving them and we do it with the best of our intentions. But some of them, I shouldn't even say some of them, many of them inherently they have problems, and they may have a sense of entitlement. They may just look down on healthcare providers. So they are going to be fundamentally disrespectful, no matter how nice you are to them. In that situation, how can we draw good boundaries while still showing empathy to them?
Yeah, and that's great, and that's where, with the talk that I do, the cheeseburger talk is what I call it, which is enhanced mindful communication with empathy through mind hygiene, or otherwise being nice to yourself and writing it down. What I would do in that situation is I would try to share a short, vulnerable story and let them know that I'm not the only one. So I'm nice to myself. Let me be nice to myself about whatever happened, and then share that with them. Like, as an example, let's say that patient was like, talking about some language barrier. Well,
Okay.
I'm like, okay, so here's what I can do. This is what I can do. This is the power that I have. And when I remember taking my mom to an ER one time, they made me wait for 10 hours. And then they were like, well, you know what? We're not going to be able to see you. So I feel that was a breakdown of language as well. But what I did was I accepted the situation. I wasn't being judgmental about it, and I wasn't talking bad to anybody about it. And this is what we can do right now. I understand that there are these concerns that I may not be able to address right now, and I never will be able to address them. But this is what I can do for you right now, and this is the value that I can bring. And if we can't bring that, maybe I can just have a quick boundary and say, I don't want to I don't want this to engage this further. But that's so rare. It might have happened like 2 or 3 times in the 100,000 patients that I've seen where I've
Like
had to do that. But
it's a
then
last
again, I
resort.
just don't
Yeah.
even know when people are being mean. If somebody's being rude, I don't understand that anymore because
Fair enough.
I don't view it like that. So
Mm,
I don't view. There are people who will get upset, and then you just figure out when you're nice to yourself, it just automatically will happen.
fair
I
enough.
just
Yeah.
don't. I find that over the last few years, I can try to think of some interactions that I've had that people would perceive as bad, but I'm just like, this is the way I found the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's called rational emotive behavioral therapy or dialectical therapy, where you say, oh, they're not doing bad, but you're viewing it as bad.
Yes.
Not that you need to see the good in them. That's your reality. And the
Yeah.
reality is likely because you talk to people who have that same reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. DBT, CBT. I've been there, done that. Been in therapy for quite a while, so
Oh, very good.
very familiar with that experience. Now,
Mhm. What is your experience with it?
I am much better with CBT, I have to say. I think that has worked much better for me now. Now with my therapist, now I'm working very specifically with how I can reframe my internal belief system. And because that's the main reason. It's not even because initially I went to her for anxiety and depression. But now
Mhm.
my last session with her, she asked me, "Oh, how do you want to moving forward? What do you want to focus on?" I said, "Well, let's do sessions once a month, and I just want to rewire my belief system,
Mhm.
because I'm going to need that to survive. To be a solopreneur." So, so that's what she's going to work with me on when I come back from vacation, and so does she. So, looking forward to that. Anyway, moving on. So I know because I in the little bit of the book that I read of yours where you were and pardon my language, you things up massively when you were working with your patients for a long time. And you were getting bad ratings and you were really being regarded as a poor communicator. How did you overcome that? And is empathy like a muscle that you build and develop? And if so, how did you do it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, during the whole time, I mean, yeah, I guess there it is right there. So thing, that's where it becomes a big problem. And that's where I probably had stopped saying those types of things maybe about 2 to 3 years into my bad patient experiences, where I'm just like, okay, there's something that's going on. It's likely because of something that happened in my childhood. Let's see what we're going to do about it now. And then I started writing lots like rap songs. Like I was writing a lot of rap about like why is it that I'm doing these things that I don't want to? I don't want to complain. I don't want to talk bad about patients, but I'm doing that to fit in. Why is that? Why do I feel the need to fit into other doctors or healthcare professionals? Not all people, but enough people who want to talk bad about patients. And then when I started going to cognitive behavioral therapy, I was going to therapy. I still go to therapy, but at that time, for almost 5 years, I was going to therapy 2 to 3 times a month for 5 years. But it wasn't that I was only going to therapy, I was writing. Each time I went to therapy, I would have at least a minimum hour-long writing session about
Mm-hmm.
what happened. And then I would start rhyming those words. I would start making rap songs out of them. Maybe I would just write something or another. I don't remember exactly how I put all of that together. But regardless, what I did was it was repetitive over and over and over and over again about how I was talking bad about myself, how I thought I was stupid, how I thought I was dumb. That's why I call it the dumb doctor. It was literal. I really thought that I was dumb for
Mm.
the longest period of time. And that's why I didn't say the stupid doctor because I felt that would be even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So but I would say I'm stupid all the time during those years. But then as I kept on writing down the awareness, I'm like, it took me about 2 years to say, okay, I'm mindless and my behaviors are mindless. But I didn't even know what that meant. This was about 7 years ago. I had no idea what awareness meant. I had no idea what cognizance was. I had no idea what it meant to resent. I mean, I heard these things, but I didn't know what it was until I started writing those raps. And
Mm-hmm.
when I did it over and over and over again, I finally understood that I've been engaging in mindless behavior that's not good for my mind.
Yeah.
And then after that, I started going to dialectical behavioral therapy. And then I completed that whole workbook in a period of maybe a year, going 2 to 3 times a month. And not only that, I wrote a bunch of rap songs and I have 2 rap videos. So just to
Mm-hmm.
not forget it, I shot 2 music videos and they're on my YouTube too, when I was in the middle of dialectical therapy. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm talking bad about myself, but maybe I can inspire from it. Oh, it's not trauma, it's a life experience that I haven't inspired from yet. So then I started creating these dialects in that. But once again, I had no idea what I was doing. I just didn't want to have bad patients. I didn't want a patient to complain anymore. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to keep my job. I didn't want a patient to complain. I didn't want anybody saying nothing bad about it. So those were like the main things. And then it kept on going. And then I did EMDR for 2 years. And a little did I know that I was beginning to understand myself, or that empathetic muscle I was building. And I kept on understanding, and I kept on, my dad abused us, you know, it was a very traumatic household, with my mom being institutionalized for 27 years, my brother being gay, not accepting it, dying of methamphetamines and alcohol at 48, my mother being institutionalized for 27 years, me being without my dad. All of that stuff left me with a lot of hatred towards them. But as I started empathizing with myself and understanding that the actions that I have are because of the way I grew up with them, and I'm displacing those fears and those resentments on others, I understood that I have enough empathy for myself. I've built enough empathy for myself in the empathy vault for me to forgive myself now. That self-forgiveness took about 5 years.
That's the hardest thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but then I had to earn it though. I didn't just say I forgive myself. I wrote it all down. It's all everywhere. It's all written. And then what happened was I slowly started forgiving other people. And then I started crying for the things that people did to me. So all of the mean things, the abuse, the yelling, the names, I started crying for them because they must be hurting that bad. But it was genuine though. It wasn't like, oh, like I feel sorry for them. No, I am 100% empathetic towards my dad, a man that saw both of his sisters die in front of him. His dad would beat him. His mom would beat him. He saw his sister get beaten to death. My dad.
Yeah, the cycle of abuse, as they say. Yeah.
He never had talked about it. I only heard. My dad came to the United States in the mid 1970s. Imagine the things he must have went through to come here.
Yes.
And him saying, I only had 2 chappals. I had $5. So him talking about some of these things, and there's some partial truth to all of that.
Yes.
So with that said, I'm like, and then my dad, fine, he would make me hit my mom, but why did he take me to Disneyland? So now I'm starting to question these things. Why is it that he hit me in a store, but at the same time bought me a skateboard for my birthday? I need to understand this. So then I started realizing how much he's hurting himself. And then I started crying and crying and crying for him. And that was it. It hit me that the person that I felt did the most damage to me, I understood their life to a point where I can't say anything bad about anybody ever again. I just don't say to a point where I worked in a prison as a doctor for 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So I worked as a prison doctor for 6 months. And I had the ways of showing them empathy too. Does that mean that they need to be walking around here? No, that's not what that means.
Yes.
What it means is that I sat down, I opened my body language, I connected with them with eye contact. I was not judging them.
Yes.
And they can tell. And it only takes a minute. It takes a minute and 30 seconds for somebody to know whether you're judging them or not.
So that is when my, not just my experiences, but even my friends, when they tell me, can you recommend me a new healthcare provider? My current one does not listen. They're very condescending. They gaslight me constantly. They make everything about them. Why do you think that is the case in such a frequent manner? Is it just to do with their internal programming of all these doctors, or is it a problem with the system? Is it a much on the macro level, so to speak?
Yeah, and I can't really speak to that. It doesn't nothing against what you're saying. It just doesn't sound exciting to me.
Okay.
To like change an organization or something. It just doesn't. Even if I could do it, let's say God said, "Look, buddy, you could change that organization." I'm like, dude, doesn't sound exciting. I want to be able to speak to that one individual that can empower at least another individual, and that's where it comes to the micro level. Yeah, and not the meso or the macro. So what happens is that when anybody, it doesn't matter if they're a doctor or not, but I wrote in a rap song one time, the real you is not who you are when the clock is clocking. The real you is who you are when nobody's watching. So that's it. Yeah, that's it. If somebody writes down what they're doing in 24 hours and they don't like it, well, that's the reason why they may not like others. So it's just
Fair enough.
that simple. So
Mm.
all, like you said, it's the displacement of fears, it's self-hatred, it's the displacement. And a lot of people think those are like bad things, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not. They're the best things that can happen to anybody, because now you can love yourself now, because you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, so I do these things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not your business if somebody doesn't love themselves. I don't, if I saw a doctor who did that, I probably wouldn't say anything. I'm just like, okay, and then I would try to gain some radical awareness, and I would say, okay, look, this guy's serving this purpose for me. This is the value that this person brings. It's not my business. It's not like I know everything anyway.
Yes, of course.
So, and it's not my business to go like shopping around and knocking on people's doors. I think this is how you can communicate empathetically.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, usually it just, you somehow people can see that by example too. So the people who are in their organizations, if they can write down what they're doing in 24 hours, and they can say, okay, so this is what's going on, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm saying about that person and
Mhm.
myself, then we can start there.
Yeah. Journaling
Yeah,
is a very good practice to hold yourself accountable and also write down, what you're feeling and how you reacted in every situation. And I do it all the time myself. Now,
sure.
in your book, the free ebook, you mentioned about the 4 steps to a dopamine patient experience, and I got very interested when I sort of came across that. In a
Hmm.
nutshell, could you summarize what that entails?
Yeah, it's just what we talked about. It's 4 steps is the ACEs.
Mhm.
That's accept your awareness. So let's say you have that, we came out of that, well, let's say we're still in your phone call with the guy who's like, you can't, whatever, I don't understand you, the elderly gentleman.
Mhm.
You accept your awareness. That's it. So you've accepted the awareness. There's nothing like, oh man, that person, I got to fix this right now. Let me control the situation. So
Mhm.
that's gone. We're not doing that anymore. And let's communicate compassionately. Okay, look, I'm taking time to even understand this awareness. So now there's no need to be mean to myself, no matter what anybody says. And let me embrace the situation empathetically. Let me understand that I may not know everything. Let me not be bad to myself. And maybe in turn, I won't be bad to anybody else, and I'll understand them. And if I need to, I'll just set the boundary, say, look, buddy, we're done. Okay. Like, I'll compassionately set this boundary with you. Like I've said that to people. Like, I'm going to compassionately set this boundary with you because I'm being harmed now. And I'll go talk bad about myself. So I've said these things to people. So now you can embrace your empathy. And then S is to soften the process, not make the whole thing seem hard. So those are the 4 steps: accept, compassion, empathy, and soften.
Awesome. Very good. Now, just a question. This might be a vague one. Can a broken rapport or relationship with a patient be mended? If there's an opportunity to do it in the first place, and if so, how do we incorporate that?
Yeah, I mean, just coming back to the simple things, with the mind hygiene, like there's 2 things that I feel that separate everybody in the world. One is awareness, and the other is judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what is opposite of awareness is ignorance,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Yes.
and judgment is hate. So the
Yes.
opposite of, yeah, otherwise you can switch that around to be mindfully compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would do. And I would try to be compassionate more towards myself in that situation. And what I've done with patients, and this is what I first did, when I was having those bad patient experiences, I would call them up and I'm like, look, I'm not calling you up to try to say, this is why I did what I did. I'm not calling you up to say, oh, you know what, please forgive me. Please take that patient satisfaction score down. I'm not calling you. I want to know what I did for you to perceive this. What did I do to have this interaction? How did it develop in that way? And then the whole conversation just dramatically changes.
Okay.
Because honestly, in all honesty, I'm not worried about what they think about me at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I want to understand what the perception is. Why did they
Yes.
perceive this?
Mm-hmm.
Not what they think about me. Why do they perceive what I don't think about myself? I need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I would do. But yeah, and a lot of these things just unfold by themselves. The offense is what I don't like to do. Oh, let's go get this done right now. You got this, bro. Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, let's be strong right now. I don't like any of that.
Yes.
Stay down, understand why you did what you did. Take a few years. If I did it, you can do it too.
Yeah. Hold
Yeah,
yourself
so
accountable. Don't put the responsibility on others and blame others for everything that's
yeah.
going wrong. Yeah.
At this stage of my life, I haven't blamed anybody for, I don't even know, maybe 5 or 6 years.
Wow,
Nobody's to blame for anything.
yeah,
But
you're
that doesn't mean I
very,
stick around. If
yeah,
somebody's like yelling at my face, here's the boundary, let's go. So I'm not going to sit there and take it. But
yes,
at the same time, I'm not going to leave and talk bad about them.
okay, mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because that's going to disturb me, right?
yeah,
So that's going to disturb me.
yes,
So
100%.
mhm.
Now in the book and in your content, you do talk a little bit about physician burnout, and we did start the interview highlighting that. Why do you emphasize on it so much, and how turning that around can be improve patient experience overall?
Yeah, well, it just tracks back to the same thing. When I have what's called an MVP. And I do the MVP sometimes every hour. It could be half a day. It can be over years. What is an MVP? It's a mission, vision, purpose. Well, let's go back to that young guy who was drinking, drugging, hating, smoking, eating bad, 60 pounds overweight, and drugged out about 7, 8 years ago. Well, my mission was to make money and to choose the path of least resistance. And my vision was for everybody to like me, even though I hated myself. And my purpose was for me to take care of my mom and to make sure all my bills are paid. So that was my mission, vision, purpose. Just as an example, one moment, it was 9 a.m. on March 1st of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, March 1st, 2014. Well, March 26th of 2024, my mission is to help and equip healthcare providers, patients with mindful and empathic techniques that lead to high-level patient experiences. But in all honesty, I'm only really doing that. I'm helping myself also. That's my mission. My vision is to help other people see the clouds of emotional freedom. If I can do it, you can too. My purpose is to do something greater than me. So that makes it easy now. Nothing has to do anything with me. I don't care about myself anymore. So my purpose is not to make sure I make it to that patient. I have to leave at 4 o'clock. My purpose is not, oh, I got to make it to lunch. That's not my purpose anymore. So that's completely gone. And then when I start losing that, I start thinking about my mom, my dad, and my brother. I'm like, they didn't get to do this. They don't get to be emotionally free. Why is it that I get to do this? Well, it's time to not make this about myself. So it becomes very simple. When it's not about me, it's very simple. And some of these things are very easy to say. And that's why people need to take time to try to hygienically understand their mind before they do other things. Because if you're constantly on offense all the time, it's not going to win championships. The defense is what wins championships. The offense, you're going to get it, can only do it so many times. But if you sit down, you stay down for a while, and you say, why didn't I get it? That's where, if you can believe in your limitations and approach life with the beginner's mindset, you'll be successful with anything you do.
Absolutely. And just to sort of conclude, now you do mention a little bit about being vulnerable with your patients, and my content and my coaching also really brings this up, because at the end of the day, we're all human, and patients also need to see us as human, who's just as flawed as they are and as imperfect as they are. However, you have to sort of do it to a point where they don't sort of walk all over you, or they don't take advantage of you, or they don't feel too attached to you in some way. So to what extent can you and should you be vulnerable as a healthcare provider with your patients, and where do you draw the line and set that boundary on not to cross that?
Yeah, I think that short, vulnerable stories is where you can gain a lot of trust and engage patients in their care, but it can also turn on you as well. There's a few times that I feel I've made it about myself. So now I'll just preface that statement and say, look, I'm not making this about me, but here you go. I remember that one time I was taking my mom to the doctor, and that doctor was 45 minutes behind. My mom said she was hungry. I didn't have gas in the car, and I'm sitting there waiting, and the doctor comes in for a few seconds and doesn't really say anything to solve my problem. I've been where you are too.
Okay.
That's it. So then it's all done, and then it's empathized, and I put myself in their position for a second, for minute basis. I'm not like, I'm talking about how they woke up and they got their kids ready, they took their dog out, and they're coming into a clinic setting as an example. So
we've just got about just over 4 minutes.
Sure, yeah, no, we're
yeah,
good.
so
yeah, no,
but well, the next nail meeting link is I've provided that to you. So yeah, so that's a good way. So you sort of give it to them in small installments, but if they tend to ask you questions, and again, my content has spoken about this, when they ask you questions that you don't really feel comfortable sharing, because you might say you might think it's too personal, you might think, oh, I don't want our relationship to be about this. So in those situations, how do you handle it? Because some of them are curious and nosy. So yeah.
Yeah, not at all. I just set a compassionate boundary, and I don't get confused. I'm like, look, I'm going to set a compassionate boundary, and that compassionate boundary is for me not to hate myself when I leave. That's it. Yeah. There's not much anybody can really say to that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I would tell them this has nothing to do with you. I'm like, hey, just one time out for just a few seconds. Can I set a compassionate boundary with you? Because I don't want to hate myself when I leave this room before I go to bed.
Fair enough.
So that's it. If somebody's not going to comply with that, then you just kind of just leave the situation. You've done your job, right? So there's no self-resentment then. It's not possible. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just simple.
Yeah. Yeah, simple, but we don't really think about it as much. We just like to complicate things more than what they should be. We're very good at doing that. Now you did mention a little bit about how you were incarcerated quite a few times, and you also worked with patients who are in the prison system. How do you, because they are at a disadvantage, obviously, because of their situation. How do you provide a good patient experience when they are in some ways being disadvantaged or discriminated against? So how do you make sure that is a seamless one?
Yeah, and seamless is a very strong word, but yeah, and I was in juvenile detention, so luckily I never did anything as an adult. But yeah, and that's where the short, vulnerable stories come in, right? Because I go speak to the juvenile detention center that I was locked up at. I go speak there a couple of times a month. And when you're able to connect with them and share those quick stories with them and say, look, you're not the only one, they just tend to open. They're all human beings. Yes. There's something that's happened in their life. And then, they get caught up. A lot of the times people will say that everybody's 3 steps away from going to prison. So yeah, you just have to figure out ways to be empathetic towards yourself first, because if that doesn't happen, that offense is going to be tough. Oh, let me be nice to that patient. Well, if you're not nice to yourself, then good luck with it. I'm not saying anything about you, just in general. So that's where it really starts. It starts at the micro level.
So you did talk about, can you give me an example of one incident where you received a poor patient rating? And I know it's happened to you many, many times, but I just want to know one incident where you received a bad patient rating, and what were the reasons behind it, and how did you sort of turn that around? A significant experience for you.
Yeah, well, what happened was there was one time where it may have been about 8 years ago. I practiced out of Covington, Washington, and near Seattle, and I was still drinking at the time, and I wasn't, I was still what I call just drowning in self-hatred. So I'm walking into the room. As I walk into the room, I'm sitting down, and I've seen this patient before, but that patient changed providers from me to somebody else.
Right.
So I'm in there and I'm faking it. I'm like, okay, oh, great. Well, how are you doing today? Are you fine? Oh, good. Okay, great. Well, what are you in for today? And then they start going on, and they both seem upset. They were kind of upset that they had to see me anyway. I think that they just didn't have a choice to see me at that moment. And then what happened was there, I was, because I was asking patients at this time, why am I getting complaints from you guys? And what one person, the husband didn't say anything. And then the wife looked at me and she was like, you don't listen. And that's all they said. And then I'm walking out of the room. As I'm walking out of the room, I can hear some of this noise. And the noise reminded me of all of the times in the past, not at that time, all of these times in the past that I've had where providers have talked bad about patients. They said mean things about patients. And they've said that patient was like this, that patient was dumb. I can't believe they asked me for this. Can you believe them? And I'm like, well, that's not me though. Look at where I am in life. Look at where I came from. And I'm here in this position and I get to serve. There's something that's not right. And that's when I started going to CBT, cognitive therapy. And I realized that I wasn't listening to myself. So that's where, I just wasn't listening to myself. I was trying to play strong with myself, so I was faking it there. So that's one big, and that's not even a huge interaction. I asked them casually, like, why is it that you switched providers? And she was like, you don't listen. But I didn't know what that even meant. I
Okay.
didn't know what it meant to listen to somebody, because I never had listened to myself, right? So I never asked myself how I'm doing. I don't think
Sure.
I ever asked myself at that time. I was what? So this was after medical school. I'm attending for 3 years. I didn't know who I was. I
Okay.
had no idea who I was. I was just the people whoever you wanted me to be, asked who I was at that time.
Right.
So
So yeah.
then that came, and now, I mean, I'm so far from everything. I don't understand half of the things that go on anymore about people being mad or being mean or saying something. I just don't understand. If somebody says I don't listen, I'm like, dang, all right, let's go do this work now. Oh, let's go talk to my EMDR therapist. I'm like, man, maybe I should write like a song about this. I can't wait to see somebody inspired from it. No,
Mm.
I'm serious. Like, this is the next move. And the funny thing is that until I'm talking to you right now, otherwise I wouldn't even be aware of that,
Mm.
because my implicit mind has evolved so much. Yeah, I don't have implicit bias any longer. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm perfect all the time. I'll still get upset. 5%, 10%, it'll go astray. But most of the time I'm residing 99% in emotional freedom. But there are those times that it'll diminish, but that's very short-lived, and it might be for a few hours.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I start writing, I start doing the mind hygiene concepts and start coming back to life, and I'm like, okay, so this is what it is. So
Yes, self-awareness is everything, and people just don't spend enough time working on themselves or even knowing, what it is, who they are, what their beliefs are, what their values are, and we are just conditioned to be distracted by society, and so that we just don't take care of ourselves, or build a relationship with ourselves to begin with. Now, so at the moment, are you just doing keynotes or speaking, or are you doing practice as well? And tell me a little bit about your experience. What sort of keynotes have you delivered in the past, and what sort of talks have you done, and what are they
yeah,
like?
so yeah, I'm doing all of it. No, I do. I see patients throughout the day, from Monday through Friday, and on the times that, I mean, the place that I work with, they're real cool. If I get a speaking engagement, I'll go speak. I'm heading to Berlin. I'm going to Orlando to
Mhm.
speak, and my speaking topic, the main one, is the enhanced mindful communication with empathy.
Yes.
So I'm doing that. I'm starting a YouTube business
Mm-hmm.
where I'm going to, what I want people to know is that they can achieve emotional freedom and self-love while living with the dual diagnosis of bipolar and
Okay.
sugar addiction.
All right.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to start that channel with an entrepreneurial approach to be able to help others also that live with bipolar, and show other people that if I can thrive in substance misuse and bipolar, that they can too. And I'll donate portions of that to International Bipolar Foundation and Substance
Very
Abuse
nice.
Mental Health Association. So I'm going to do that. And yeah, I'm doing those three, and I do coaching as well, but the coaching is very limited. And I only take around 3 clients a month, and I work with them unlimited. They can call me anytime, text me anytime, because I mean, I would only take them on if I believe in them enough. Like, if I
Fair
believe
enough.
that they actually will, that they have a beginner's mindset
Mm.
and they're ready to put work in hourly. So yeah,
Right.
so that's kind of what it is. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. It's
Mm.
real fun.
Yeah, so I mean, you're a busy man, but you still made the time to do this with me, which I'm really, really appreciative of.
Yeah, not at all. No, you're
Just before we finish off, I know you've done this many times before, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you please do a little rap song for us? One of the rap songs that you've written.
yeah, like about what? I have so many.
Oh,
So like
whatever comes. Something about enhanced patient communication, because you just brought that up. So yeah.
enhanced patient communication. Um, mm, okay, fine. All right. Mind hygiene, that's the goal. Straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up. Speak your heart with empathy aloud. Speak your heart, don't let your patient down. Mind hygiene with empathy around emotionally. Free in the clouds, don't judge yourself. Always in doubt, This is how your doctor's burnt out. Mind hygiene is something like a crown. Crown yourself to let yourself down. Has there ever been a time you judge yourself? Try to let go, but nothing helps. Weight gain, drug stain, money drain, sleep pain. Feels like you don't even love yourself. Well, I've been that low. Let me let you know. Dr. Gulur, man, I learned to grow with mind hygiene. I'll be a keynote. And the patients will give you 95% scout.
Wow, that was brilliant, and it's really summed up very well what the whole interview that we did today. So, yeah, this has been so much fun. I think I can do this for hours and hours with you. But
oh, bless your heart! Thank you so much. Yeah,
and
so that's one of the patient experience songs. But I have so many songs on my Spotify. I have multiple like YouTube like videos that I've done. So yeah, and I've done a lot of. I just uploaded a rap performance that I did. I toured with a rap group here in Seattle, and I did that was about a 30-minute set. I did.
Oh, wow.
I just put that on my YouTube just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of those things are on my YouTube where you can see the keynotes that I've done, like the full length. If people are interested in the mind hygiene meditations, you can look at that there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you where people can find you. So I'm obviously going to leave all of that in the description box. And people can obviously check you out. And anyone in healthcare or anyone in general who has really has been through adversity and overcome that should really look up to you. So I'm not one of those people. It takes me a lot to actually follow and admire somebody, but I think you've really won that title with me in the short time that I've sort of learned about you.
I appreciate you saying that. And, it just goes as a testament to show that if I can do it, other people can too. But you have to put the results in. The results is what I look for. Like I look for the result. Hey, look, can I communicate with you? Can I have a good time with you? I don't know what the outcome is. The outcome might be 1 million views, and the outcome might be somebody says something bad about me, but that's not my business.
Yes.
My business is to try to do what I can at this moment and use all the tools that have been presented to me, the road, the seed, the sand, the soil, the vegetables, the gyms, the therapists, the compassion, the YouTube empathy shows, and just take it all in. So I take that all in, and then kind of just make it your own. You make up your own mind hygiene. The more frequently you just accept things and you understand what you're thinking, the more better you're going to get at it. So
absolutely.
It's just working out, right? It's just like my diet and exercise of the mind. That's how I lost the 60 pounds, how I've kept the weight off, how I've been sober with just these simple methods. I don't overwhelm myself.
Fair enough. And to everyone watching the channel, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and notification bell and like the video. I'm sure this deserves many, many likes, I'm sure. And I will see everyone in the audience next week with another video. Thank you so much.